Matt, I think we found that games against Newport are always pretty close games, very tight games, and dare say it, memorable after last season. But they've got no manager at the moment. Do you think that might have any impact on how the game might turn out?
I don't expect so, Craig. Wayne's been there a long period of time and alongside the previous manager as well. So I don't think their principles, their habits will change too much. And you can probably see that by their recent run of form and their recent games since the manager left. So I don't expect too much change going into this weekend unless they appointed someone at the last minute. And that seems less and less likely going into the weekend. But first and foremost, what a good job he's done in the meantime. But that's what Newport will bring. As always, our focus is on ourselves. We've got half an eye on what to expect. But it's always a closely contested fixture. As close to a local game as we can possibly get. So hopefully there's a strong contingent of away fans coming down and in full voice. Our fans will be the same.
Of course, they've got a player in their ranks that we know all about from last season, Robbie Wilmot. We know the threats that he has, and also Alex Fisher as well.
Yeah, I think it's a fair comment to say Robbie's been their best player this season. He played well for us on loan last season, affected the group in a positive way, and has resigned at Newport and been given a slightly freer role, a little bit more responsibility, and he's really taken to it. I watched him live at Harrogate, and obviously we've watched a lot of footage this season. He seems to be at the heart of everything good they do. So he's one to be aware of, certainly. And then Fish is exactly what he is. He'll be as honest as a day's long at the top end of the pitch, and he'll contribute to any team. So it'd be good to see a couple of familiar faces. And there's a lot of players within the Newport squad that we know relatively well. And obviously we got a player on loan this season in Podge as well. So there's a lot of connections. But all that goes to one side when 3:00 starts.
Obviously, we've spoken in recent weeks about your frustration about the number of draws we've had. What have you been thinking about this week, and what have you said to the players that might be able to get us over the line?
I've not said too much. Look, as much as it's myself being frustrated after the game, there's no one more frustrated than the players. Certainly after last weekend, because they felt their performance did enough to win that game of football. So we know certain moments have cost us recently, but our performance last week was close to where it needed to be. But for minor couple of blips here and there, but they're important because that's the reason between drawing games and winning games of football at this level. So we know we've got to be on it this weekend. I've not had to say too much to this group of players. I reinforced how well they played last weekend, the chances we created, and the moments we put ourselves into in relation to the game. And we've come pretty close on several occasions so far this season, but I'm looking for more complete display where both ends of the pitch reflect each other in terms of their dominance, but also in terms of nullifying the opposition and having more control. That's one thing we spoke about this week, is that certainly in the last couple of home games, Walsall and Sutton respectively, we've lost control at times, certainly in the first half of both those games. So that's something we're targeting this weekend.
The under-23s were in action yesterday against West Ham. We saw the likes of Josh Coley get some minutes there. I mean, I imagine he's banging on your door for a start after his performance, but it's valuable minutes for certain players yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, look, he's still getting there. I think, was it 70 minutes he played yesterday, maybe a little bit more. So an improvement on what he played at Cheltenham. We need to be able to trust him to play 90 minutes at a level, but more good signs in relation to his goal and his performance. And he comes into the reckoning for this weekend, of course he does. Colin Daniel got more minutes as well. So it's important they keep playing Harry Kite as well. They've got to keep on playing, and that's why it was so important to progress in that competition and to beat Plymouth, because we wanted the 6 guaranteed good quality games. Despite the results, they've been beneficial to the senior ones and the young ones. Fantastic experience for some of those young players yesterday. And it's a shame they didn't get anything from that game, because similar to what we spoke about, they probably deserved to come away with something in relation to the result. But it wasn't to be. But we're looking forward to what more that competition brings. But those players we've mentioned are getting closer and closer to first team recognition and first team starts.
And obviously, with a 3-game week, I imagine this is midweek as well. It's the opportunity for these players to get some minutes in the league as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's players who've come back from injury. Archie Collins played his first 90 last weekend, so it'd be a big ask to ask him to play all 3 games of 90 plus minutes. We've got players on 4 bookings. We've got players who still around the 70, 80 minute mark in terms of full fitness. So I expect the team to evolve this week and for a lot of opportunities to different personnel. And having the flexibility of being able to change shape and change personnel at different times is a real strength for ours at the moment. But they'll need a little bit of solidity and security to start the game Saturday. And as soon as Saturday's out of the way, we'll look forward to the long trip on Tuesday to your previous club, and then look at the home game the following weekend.
Obviously, Hodge Armand unavailable as part of his loan deal, but the rest of the squad, other than the long term, pretty fresh.
Yeah, really fresh. The rest of the group on the back of 2 weeks ago, a little bit of illness, whether it was COVID or illness, seemed in a good place. And like you touched upon, more minutes for different personnel in the week. So they've trained well this week. They've just trained with a bit of an edge as well. That's been important to see because you could sense everyone's disappointment, or it wasn't for the lack of trying last weekend. It was just the way that game panned out. But if we get close to those performance levels again, we'll give ourselves a good chance of winning this game of football. Anyone who's at Stevenage or even the week before, we've been seeing some exciting games and lots of goals going in. And we want to keep our goal scoring form going and keep creating those chances. But like we spoke about, there's certainly areas we can improve on.
Away from sort of matters to do with the game now, the training ground investment proposal was put out today. How pivotal, should that be agreed, is that to our goals as a club?
It's huge. It's the next area to target, next area to improve. A lot of investments gone into the stadium, into the pitches, both at the training ground and at St James's Park as well. So anyone who's spent any time at the Cliffield training ground will understand the difficulties we face on a daily basis in relation to the buildings and the training ground buildings. The players spend the most amount of time here, and that's not just first team players, it's academy players as well. It'd be great to have a facility which would be beneficial for the time players spend there. At the moment, they just come in and train, and then we try and move them on elsewhere because we can't provide them with the right provision for S&C, for strength and conditioning, for the gym, for food, for nutrition, hydration, for recovery, for the physios, for the kit department, and the coaches as well. So there's so many areas we can improve. And the club has worked so well in recent seasons and for a long time now to produce players. And there's no reason why we can't produce more players if we got better facilities.
And finally, then, it's a big weekend as well for the Exeter City women playing here at the Park on Sunday against Argyle. Do you have a message for the team at all?
Look, they'll know it. They'll understand it. I think they played Plymouth in a cup final towards the end of last season. There's no bigger game down here than a Devon derby, and it's great. It's on our home patch, and hopefully our fans turn up in good numbers. And hopefully the girls put in a performance which reflects that. I know it'll be full of guts and endeavour and a little bit of quality as well. So it'll be a really good spectacle to witness. And it's certainly an area of the club similar to training ground buildings where the club are trying to promote, and for the right reasons as well. So I think everyone's looking forward to Sunday. So as soon as Saturday's out of the way, we'll look forward to that.